Market recap for Wednesday, the 1st of April, 2026. Okay. Set into replay here, right? So we can just have the day without this next day going through. Alright, so today, when we came to market open, the bias was kind of conflicting, right? We could be either bearish, we could be bullish, right? We could stall for the day, right? And the reasons are, right? If we just check the 15-minute, this is market open, right? We're disrespecting bullish and bearish BD arrays in like intraday price action. However, the overall structure is bullish. So I was leaning towards more bullish price action. However, if we had any reason to go lower, then we'd do it right there, right? Because the last thing is we was disrespecting this kind of bullish structure, right? In terms of targets, there wasn't really any targets, right? Um, as in the daily, like I said, we still, even though that we went this high, we're still bearish, right? We're still bearish. And I said my maximum point is this high right there, right? We have to still respect this. Look at the high, right? So I'd say today we basically went to the maximum that we could go to if we're gonna be bearish. Anything above this, and then that's it. My bias flips, and then we're looking for high highs. And then once we go lower again, the whole market structure is still bullish, right? However, for now, I'm still standing with the bearish stance. I don't believe this is the low yet, right? Until either we take out this high, there'll be a purge and revert, and then that will start a market maker buy model. But until that happens, I'm still bearish. Okay. So that's cool. Right, cool. It doesn't matter, right? I don't expect us to fully dump today, but that's my expectation that we're still bearish. So I'm not really looking to be a buyer, right? So what do we have in terms of liquidity? Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sell side liquidity, right? Which we could have potentially just open up today and start dumping, right? So if that's the case, then what would I expect, right? Well, pre-market, I believe we had some sort of news, right? Because there'd be no reason for this rally, right? We had these relative equal highs that were taken and then taken again, right? Take the high again, right? So that would warrant enough, right, for us to sell off, right? If we're gonna sell off, because my target, if we're gonna sell off for today, it'll be this PM low, right? I'm not expecting us to come all the way here. If we come to the PM low and then react anywhere of here, come back higher, and then Thursday, then we could go again lower, right? That could be scenario one. Scenario two is we just accumulate for the day, basically, which means we stay in our range and then we actually take the buy side, right? So if we're gonna have scenario one where we're gonna dump, what would I expect? Well, if we hop onto the 15 minutes, I would want this to be respected, right? I would want us to go back into this and then come back lower, right? And we need to reach the lower quadrant of our opening range gap, right? See, these lines are the opening range gap. If I go to the trading hours here, you can see we hit the lower quadrant. Perfect, right? However, the problem is we go above. This is still okay, permissible, but I don't want us to go any higher, really, right? Maybe we could have a candle here and then dump down, and that would be fine. But you can see that we went all the way to the rejection block of this, right? Okay. And then start dumping. This dump didn't make sense, right? If we're gonna go this high, well, there has to be a reason, right? If we're gonna go this high, there has to be a reason. That made me iffy about the day, right? There's two things. One is now the scenarios for the day has changed, where I would expect us to just only get to the 930 low, really, this 931, but basically this low, right? And then that would be it. But the setup alone, for me, this wasn't really a good setup, right? To just take, right? Okay, it's just the first fair value gap here, and you would take it lower. Now that doesn't make sense for me. So let's get rid of this. Because once we come all the way lower here, it it just doesn't make sense, right? Like it's just iffy. Why would we go all the way high up there, but not SMT with ES, for example, right? What is the chart? See, ES doesn't take that high, right? If, for example, ES taking that high, then that makes sense. But both indices don't take the high, so it's iffy. Now I want to see if any of the indices will take the 930 low, right? Well, basically in this case it's 931. We come all the way lower, and ES, that's a 930 low. ES does take the 930 low, right? Even though we closed below um the first presented fair value gap, I took this on the paper, right? I didn't really care about this as a paper trade, just seeing if it would work out. But I had that gut feeling to make me switch to paper, yeah, because it just didn't make sense, right? Now that we've taken this low, it became apparent once we come back to the first presented and go above it that we're not going to be interested about these lows, right? And normally a day like this would go up, right? Like it would go up and take this high, and then would come for the 930 low, right? But we wouldn't come all the way down here if we're going to take the high, right? And that's what I was going with. However, today we came for the low early, which means once we go to the high here, you wouldn't expect that 1050 macro to dump us lower, right? You would expect us to dump later, right? And in today's case, it was in the PM session. So this is the long that I should have taken, right? I was contemplating on taking it or not, and decided not to take it, right? Because I'm just not fully confident with it, right? And as you can see, it took so long, bro. This is like I would have entered here, and we're talking about hitting liquidity. It's a whole hour, right? A whole hour. I don't know if I would get hit at break even or stopped in profit or whatever. But for next time, if I have the feeling, because I knew we were gonna go higher, I just wanted to short. But for the next time, I'm just gonna be like, alright, if I think it's gonna go higher, then I might as well take the long if the short is gonna be outside my session, right? I ended up waiting all the way till PM session, right? And then once we started doing this, I knew the dump is gonna happen. I just short put a stop loss that's safe somewhere around here, and went to sleep and had my TP right at these lows. Woke up, we hit the TP, and we basically consolidated for the day. It's okay, right? It's cool. I got the trade. That was the fast trade or whatever, right? Almost 200 handles. It's 200 handles actually, but that should not have been the trade that I'd taken today. I should have took the long to these highs, even though it's like less handles, but that's my trading time, right? And I guess this is just lack of experience in this part, right? Because I didn't expect all of this, right? If we're gonna be long, I'd expect this to hold the first presented, but I forgot about the 930 low taking and the conditions for that. And we've been doing this recently, right? Like even on Wednesday, I mean on Tuesday yesterday, is the same concept, right? However, we went to take something, right? There was a liquidity there, right? And because at the start, yes, we do hit the lower quadrant, but we don't come for the 930 low, right? We don't go up, we don't go up here or something and then come back for the 930 low. We keep going up, which made us later for basically a 1050 macro to come down to the 930 low, right? It is a bit different, but you just need to get the rules. So for this is a short. For today, it should have been a long, right? And that's really it. Anyway, my expectation is still the same, right? I'm still bearish on this market, and this whole run is invalid, right? All of this sell side, sell side, sell side. I don't expect this. I would not be surprised if we come back to these lows this week, right? We could have Thursday hard dumpers somewhere here or before that, and then Friday with NFP continue the dump, right? I would not be surprised. Unless somehow, some way, today we get above this high, then NFP dump, I wouldn't expect it to be that crazy of a low, right? This day was just, it was meant, okay, it's not meant to dump, right? It's not the day that it's meant to dump, but the second that it has the chance, as you can see, now that Thursday is, we can start moving to distribution lower, and, you know, we hit all the targets that we're meant to go for, right? So I'd be expecting today, then Thursday, to continue dumping, right? Rather than have any bullish structure. That's my expectations, but by 9:30, stuff can change. It could look different or whatever, right? As long as we don't go above this high, right? I don't mind YM, for example, to take that high. That's fine. But as long as we don't take up above this high here on NQ, then I would not even be surprised if we come back all the way to these lows. We don't have to do it this week. But let me just check one thing, right? Yeah, we don't have to do it this week. I just want to check the weekly wick right there, just real quick. Right, we hit the midpoint of this wick. I suspect it though. Right, so I think that's enough for going up and trying to convince people that we're gonna go higher. And the rest is gonna be distributing lower. This Thursday should be good, and it might be even dumping early markets, right? I mean, we already dumped in Asia this long, but I'm talking like as in 9:30, we could have a crazy distribution lower, and the best thing that we want to see is no reaction here, just the same way that we went up is the same way that we go down, and that'll be nice, right? So that's my expectation so far. We have this clean gap that I would expect us to come back to and continue, right? If we wake this low, or if we don't take it and make it relative equal lows, it's still fine. We could do this in London and then start distributing lower. That's I guess my expectation. I guess if we come back to here in London and I'm here in the chart, that's something that I would take, right? Because it will be the discount this range, a nice gap, right? Market structure shift, 2022 model, and I guess the target would be this low. So yeah, that's a market recap. Peace out.